If you have a business you're looking to expand, if you're a sports person, if you're trying to re-enter the job market, or if you like arts and culture, the next few minutes are going to open up a wealth of opportunities for you. We're here in Stockton at the offices of the Tees Valley Combined Authority, and sitting with me is Mayor Ben Houchen. Mr. Mayor, thank you so much for speaking directly to the people of Hartlepool today. We appreciate it.
No, thanks for arranging it. I'm really pleased that you can come in and ask me some questions.
Well, when I was researching this, there were several things that became immediately apparent. You have a staggering amount of projects going on. I mean, and we're going to put up all links, everything. I encourage people to log on and find out more about you, because there's so much stuff going on. We can't even begin to go through it today. Also, the Tees Valley Combined Authority, I had no idea that it was going to be so crucial to the well-being of Hartlepool and the other authorities that come under your umbrella. And thirdly, and I'd like to address this first if I may.
Yeah, please.
Since I didn't know too much about the Tees Valley Combined Authority, I was curious to know who else did. So as I was going around Hartlepool, I asked all walks of life, and not one person really knew what you did. So can we do just a rapid fire question and answer?
Yes, please do.
Marvellous.
Of course we can.
What exactly is the Tees Valley Combined Authority?
So it's the collection of all the local authorities in the Tees Valley, so Middlesbrough, Stockton, Hartlepool, Darlington and Redcar and Cleveland have come together. And basically what we are is a much more local version of kind of economic activity and regeneration. So when you're looking at really big business projects, whether it be things like the renewal of Hartlepool's nuclear power station, whether it be things like the Development Corporation and the Steelworks, they're of such a size that we as a sub-region deal with those projects. So what we don't do is we don't fix potholes, we don't look after children or adult services, we don't empty your bins, we do big scale jobs, regeneration, and we've got a whole dedicated team to be able to deliver those jobs right across the region.
Great. Now, people here talk about the Northern Powerhouse. Is this the Northern Powerhouse as well, or is that something else?
It's part of it. Part of the Northern Powerhouse was about devolution as well, and it was about delivering these metro mayors, of which I'm very proud to say that I'm the first one for the Tees Valley. And that means that we have preferential treatment. So, you know, the people of Hartlepool, through me as mayor, get preferential treatment when speaking to government on all sorts of issues, rather than having to stand in line with all the other local authorities. We are at the top table. You know, I'm sat at the top table with Manchester, Birmingham, London. I meet Sadiq Khan regularly. You know, we are having the conversations on behalf of the people of Hartlepool and the rest of the Tees Valley.
From whom do you get your funding, and is it like a fixed amount each year?
So we get our devolution settlement, which is part of the Northern Powerhouse. Devolution was me as Metro Mayor, but it comes with money. So government have given us, so it doesn't come from local authorities, but government has given us £15 million a year for the next 30 years. We also have a huge amount of other pots of money that have been given to us through government. So right at this moment in time, we've got more than £500 million to spend in the next 3.5 years, which is a huge amount of money to invest in these big seismic projects that we're talking about. And the government guarantee that £15 million a year. They've given us all these other pots of money, so it allows us to get on, invest, creating those businesses and creating those jobs. Yeah.
And the key word's invest.
Of course it is, that's what it's about. You know, just in the last 12 months we've spent more than £52 million investing in the Tees Valley across specific discrete projects, of which actually the most amount compared to all of the 5 local authorities has actually been spent in Hartlepool.
Wow. See, not many people know that.
It's really frustrating to me, because actually I do get a lot from people saying, I don't know who you are, I don't know what you do, what have you ever done for Hartlepool? And compared to any of the local authorities at the moment, we've invested more in Hartlepool than anywhere else. So it does frustrate me that people don't see, you know, the benefits that the Tees Valley brings.
So who decides where to invest those funds? I mean, do you have like a committee or something?
So, well, we have our own strategy. We have a big, you know, to get technical, we have something called a strategic economic plan that sets out the vision for what we want the Tees Valley to be. And the really overarching scheme of that is we want to generate 25,000 new jobs by 2026.
Right.
So everything else falls from that. So how do we create those jobs? So that includes skills, it includes things like transport, roads, rail, buses, the whole amount. And it also includes about supporting local business as well. So we give grants out to local businesses to be able to start up or expand their business, invest in a piece of machinery. Things like apprenticeships as well. All the apprenticeship work comes through us now, which we help set up.
So to whom do you answer to?
Well, as an elected politician, I'm a directly elected mayor, and so I answer to the public. I'm elected by the people of the Tees Valley to do what they believe is the right thing.
Right.
And I hope, having lived and been born and raised here my whole life, that I have a bit of an understanding of what the Tees Valley is really about.
Well, yeah, definitely. The people in Hartlepool still miss Durham Tees Airport. Now, I know when you ran for office in May 2017, part of your platform was to bring back Durham Tees Airport into public ownership. How's that going? How far have you got on with that?
No, it's going really well, and it's interesting that you say that, Pam, because I know that there are some people at Hartlepool Council that actually say that the people of Hartlepool don't care about the airport at all, which I always found surprising, because across the Tees Valley everybody cares about the local airport. And you know, I made that pledge on the basis that everybody remembers when we had Ryanair, we had TUI, we had others coming out of that airport doing really, really well. You know, up to more than 1 million passengers.
Yeah, it was great.
It all went horribly, horribly wrong. So I made a very clear pledge, which I know was why I was elected, which was to take back control of Durham Tees Valley, Teesside Airport in effect. And it's going really well. We've signed an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement with Peel to negotiate on the purchase of the airport, and something that goes unnoticed, but we've also signed another non-disclosure agreement with a well thought of airport owner and operator who's UK based and has a track record of success in running airports, who wants to come along with us on our journey and be part of that journey and run the airport for us when we take back control. So I think the future looks bright if we can make this deal happen, but we need to make the deal happen. That's the big thing. It's not done yet because, again, one of the nuances is when I bring forward my plan, which I will bring forward, it has to get ratified by the 5 local authorities.
Okay.
And the leaders of the 5 local authorities have to vote for that plan. So ultimately, while I will bring forward a plan, it does rest on them supporting my plan to be able to rescue Teesside Airport.
Oh, that's very interesting. Didn't know that either. How do you ensure all 5 regions that you represent get an equal amount of funding? I mean, do you have a big chart on the wall, or how does that work?
No, it's not as micromanaged as we've given £3 million to Redcar, so we've got to give £3 million to Hartlepool. It doesn't really work like that. What we look at are what are the most strategic projects that can make a real difference to the people of the Tees Valley. Because, all right, it's fine investing money in Hartlepool, which we already do, but a lot of people in Hartlepool work in Stockton and they work in Middlesbrough. So actually an investment in Middlesbrough or Stockton or Redcar or Darlington is an investment in the people in Hartlepool. In the same way, for example, one of our big transport priorities is to invest in Darlington Station, to redevelop that.
Yeah, and you're doing the same to Middlesbrough.
And we're trying to do the same for Middlesbrough, but the Darlington one's the key one, because that will unlock a huge amount of capacity on the local line. So instead of, for example, in the Saltburn line to Darlington, you can only get 2 trains an hour going into Darlington. If we solve that, you can get up to 8 trains an hour. And that also unlocks, for example, into Hartlepool Station as well, more frequent trains across the Tees Valley. You can then do some really interesting things that we're in discussions with TransPennine Express to increase their capacity and the number of trains that they run from Manchester Airport. So while we're improving Darlington Station, people will see a direct benefit in Hartlepool at Hartlepool Station with more frequent trains, better quality of trains, and more services to different stations as well. And so people would see an investment in Darlington as an investment in the people of Hartlepool. I would hope they would.
Well, absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's definitely got a knock-on effect. This is such great stuff, it really is. I just want to touch on one project. I mean, you literally have so many, but just one. You've invested $3.4 million in Church Street in Hartlepool. Yep. I just want to ask some general questions about the process so people can try and get their heads around it, using that as an example. How does the authority identify such projects? I mean, do the councils come to you, or do you...
It can be a mix. So what you tend to find happens is we get approached directly by private business looking for investment and looking at specific projects. So they'll approach us for our support. We come up with our own projects, things like the airport, things like Darlington Station. To a large extent, some of the other big projects are led by us locally, and we decide what is big and strategic that's going to make a difference. But then we also get approached by local authorities saying, actually, we think this would be a good idea. It would be really helpful if you could take this on board, fund it, and help us develop it. Now, when it came to Church Street and the development of that, that was something that we were approached by Hartlepool because it's not something they can fund or deliver. And they approached us, and we were able to fund and deliver that project entirely, and we've provided all the funding for it. And I think once it's finished, it will add a huge amount of value to the people of Hartlepool. So,
Tees Valley Combined Authority, you don't put the tenders out or choose contractors?
What we try to do is use our partners. So we will appraise things, we'll check to make sure it's value for money, we're going to check to make sure it's going to create the jobs, because that's our target, economic growth and jobs. And then we'll say, as long as you meet these requirements, we're quite happy for the local authorities to run that contract on the basis of what they've submitted. So we'll give them the money to be able to fund it. So if you look at Hartlepool, for instance, a lot of people think Hartlepool have done that project, when actually all of the money is combined authority. We've helped build that project. Now,
do you keep your hand on the tiller while a project is ongoing?
We always, my office stays appraised of absolutely everything, because, you know, having run my own business before and having been a solicitor before as well, you often find that if you take your eye off the ball, things either break down, they don't happen, or it sits on somebody's desk. And I'm not in the game of, you know, pushing paper around. We're about delivery. And that can be very different from local authorities, because local authorities have a role to play, but they're not about delivering new jobs. They're not really about delivering seismic projects, and that's what we're about doing.
Since it's such a huge amount of money, do you reconcile the accounts after a project's done? I mean, you know, once it's completed?
Yeah, we'll keep a track on finished projects to make sure it's value for money. We have a scrutiny process at the Combined Authority, which local councillors sit on, so they can scrutinise my work, so there's accountability there. And then we go through a similar process that local councils or any public body goes through about signing off accounts and making sure that things are done properly and decisions are made properly, and that's the right thing to do.
What happens if a project goes over budget?
That's a very good question. So when you have it from a local authority's perspective, we are committed to a financial amount of money, which is why we often like local authorities to run it, because it means that if they run out of that money, they've got none left, and therefore they'll have to top it up themselves, and we can keep an eye on that. Okay. We have local people in the office here as well who give assistance to local authorities as well, because local authorities often are not geared up to do this type of work, and so we help them along the way to make sure that that doesn't happen.
And conversely, because I'm sure councils will try and help you and come under budget where possible, do they still return any money left over for other good works, or does it come back to your coffers?
No, if there was an underspend, which would be absolutely fantastic, I'd always be amazed if a local authority underspends anything. But it would come back to our coffers, because it's our money, and we do keep a very close eye on spend, what it's going on. Is it going on the things you told us it was going to go on, for instance? So we keep a very close eye on money, because ultimately, whether it's government money, which is basically what the Combined Authority is funded by, it's still taxpayers' money, and it needs to be spent properly.
Yeah, it's still taxpayers' money. Absolutely right. How much cooperation do you get within the 5 councils?
The 5 councils are bought into the project. You know, they had to sign up to the Combined Authority in the first place, and they get what you actually achieve from coming together as a Tees Valley. Because you know what, in this world we're becoming a much more globalised world. So you know what, we're not competing with Newcastle or Leeds anymore. We're competing with Miami, Frankfurt. We're competing with, you know, the south of France. We're competing with the Far East as well, places like Singapore and China. So we have to come together as a larger group of people to have a standing on that world stage, and they get that. And they also get that actually an organisation like this is extremely important for delivering big economic opportunities and delivering jobs, because local authorities for a long time haven't really been geared up to do that.
Well, no, and I'm sure everybody will be heartened, you know, if they log on and see the scope of the project you've got going. And that's why I want to come back to my very first point. I mean, you've got well over 20 big projects, from rail, digital, construction, advanced engineering to job creation, increased tourism, creative arts, sports opportunities. I mean, it's amazing. You've just met with the Prime Minister, secured another 107 million for the area. But as we finish this interview, I know you're really buzzing about Freeport.
Yes.
What is a Freeport? Why create one in Teesside? Will Hartlepool particularly see a benefit, and is this a post-Brexit advantage?
Well, I think Freeports are a huge opportunity and one of the massive positives out of Brexit.
What is it?
A Freeport is a specific area that allows you to import goods and then re-export them without taxes and tariffs. So it makes it much more cost effective to be able to build things and make things again. And ultimately, if we get it right, we'll see the reshoring of manufacturing jobs we haven't seen in this country for decades. Really good manual jobs where we're creating things with our hands, something we've done in this region for centuries, never mind decades, and we'll be able to do that again, because it makes us much more competitive than we currently are inside the European Union, and it allows us to import, for example, raw materials into the Tees. We can then process it, add value, do all the really great skilled jobs that we do here, and then re-export it to the rest of the world, creating lots more jobs in the Tees Valley, creating lots more jobs in places like Hartlepool.
So it's just, again, a knock-on.
It's all that knock-on. Everything is about job creation. If we look at, for example, what some of the smaller stuff we're doing in Hartlepool, it's not Freeports, which could be, you know, truly transformational for the UK economy, never mind the Tees Valley, of which we're leading the way. But, you know, investing more than £4 million in in Cleveland College of Art and Design, now Northern School of Art, we rebuilt their campus in Hartlepool to the tune of more than £4 million. Yeah. The fact that we've done the Northern Schools Quarter at Church Street, of which there's a second phase of that, so there's more money coming into Hartlepool. And the really big one for Hartlepool is making sure there's a future post the potential wind down in 10-15 years time of the nuclear power station. What replaces that? Is it another nuclear power station? Is it another form of industry? We're already talking to the UK Atomic Energy Agency. We're talking to government about a new power station, a new nuclear power station towards the end of the 2020s, early 2030s. What does that look like? Or indeed, do we look at the more the chemical sector that is absolutely buzzing at the moment in Hartlepool, and we're seeing lots of jobs created. We've got to be able to manage the fact that there are a huge amount of people who work at the nuclear power station, and what we can't afford is for that to be turned off and for those people to be out of work. So there's a huge amount of time and effort going into Hartlepool.
So you're very forward thinking as well.
The one thing about this organisation is it's long term. So rather than short term political gain that seems you sometimes get from local authorities, we can plan over 5, 10, 15, sometimes 20-year periods to make sure we give benefits to local people, rather than being knee jerk and reactive on a short term basis for political gain.
Well, we're going to put all the contact details up and all the links. I urge everybody, follow the Tees Valley Combined Authority and the Mayor's personal account on social media. There's so much going on, there's so many opportunities. Tune in regularly and find out what they are. Mr. Mayor?
No, pleasure.
Thank you so much for your time. I hope we can do this again sometime.
Oh, I'm sure we will.